Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me today with a every month I'm going to be doing some kind of special subject or topic. And today's topic, with Chat with Byron, is thoughts. Last month I shared on emotions, and I went through kind of the rationale behind how we can be better stewards of our emotions. And today, because they kind of go hand in hand, I'm going to be talking about thoughts. And as you can imagine, this is a pretty broad topic, but I do think that it's important for us to understand, and I'm going to touch upon this a little bit later, that we have thoughts, but we're not necessarily our thoughts. Our thoughts are separate and distinct from us. So if you are someone that struggles with kind of self-doubt, or you have a particularly loud inner critic, or you have at times you really struggle with what to say in certain situations, and at times you feel kind of overwhelmed with kind of a bombardment of thoughts and you feel overwhelmed. I think that today's designed to help you. And everyone has thoughts. So it's really about trying to figure out what those thoughts are, and what we can do about them, because thoughts are the cognitive process that shape our perceptions, our beliefs, and our actions. And they can also be incredibly random and unpredictable. They can literally come out of what you is a phrase, coming out of left field. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. Today we're talking about conscious thoughts. There are times when we have subconscious thoughts, and even those can come, while we're awake. But I'm not talking about, what goes on when we're asleep, because there's a whole different set of things that happen when we're asleep, because our subconscious takes over. But despite their importance, thoughts are crucial to recognize that not all thoughts are to be trusted. And let me just say it again. All of your thoughts, the thoughts that you have, they're not all to be trusted. So our minds have a tendency to wander, and they can produce a myriad of ideas and associations that they may not always align with reality, and they also may not align with our best interest, especially if our inner critic is involved. And our inner critic is there to actually help us, but sometimes it doesn't feel like help. It feels like we're being assaulted from within. While thoughts can offer valuable insights and creative inspiration, they can also be influenced by our biases, our prejudices, our past experiences, and our fleeting emotions. Because thoughts and emotion, there is kind of a cycle or a trigger, a thought which can trigger an emotion. But practicing mindfulness, prayer, meditation, and maintaining a healthy skepticism, which is what I would call a perspective, can help us navigate the randomness of our thoughts, and they can allow us to cultivate a greater awareness, become more resilient, and have more clarity in our lives. So thoughts and emotions are not the same, but they're very closely intertwined, but they are a distinct phenomena. Emotions are, as we mentioned last month, are subjective experiences associated with our feelings, such as joy, sadness, fear. And when we talked about, there's a difference between surface emotions or feelings, and I use that word synonymously, emotions and feelings. There are surface emotions and feelings that are connected to deeper emotions and feelings. And really the work was about making that connection. But in contrast, thoughts involve the cognitive process of perception and interpretation and evaluation. Both emotions and thoughts, they can both arise or come into our awareness spontaneously without much association or trigger. And much of them are beyond our control. And I think it can take a lifetime to learn how to control your thoughts or control your mind. But through discipline, I believe that thoughts can be consciously directed and modified through cognitive techniques such as mindfulness, which is kind of we'll talk a little bit about that, maybe not today, but maybe some other time we'll talk about what that, part of what I want to share today is mindfulness, but it's also You can also have this idea of prayer and meditation, cognitive restructuring, and positive reframing. Those can also be strategies for, especially for folks that have, they tend to see their mind kind of go out of control, and also those that have what's called monkey mind. And monkey mind refers to the state of restlessness and unsettled thoughts that are characterized by the constant mental chatter and distraction and impulsiveness. The term is derived from the metaphor of a monkey swinging from branch to branch in a forest, illustrating the unpredictable and erratic nature of the human mind when it's unable to focus or settle. Monkey mind often leads to feelings of anxiety, overwhelm, and difficulty concentrating, making it challenging to maintain mindfulness and engage in tasks requiring sustained attention. And this is a pretty common phenomenon. Monkey mind, practicing meditation, as we said just a minute ago, prayer, mindfulness techniques can also calm the monkey mind and cultivate a sense of inner peace and clarity over time. A little bit at a time. But when someone, and you can even see children, the children that exhibit this characteristic of monkey mind, and it's important even as parents when we see our child has a monkey mind. There are things that we can do to help them focus, zero in, and when you focus on one thing, you're literally learning to ignore everything else, and that becomes a really important skill to develop your ability to focus. But there are similarities between the thoughts and emotions. Despite their differences, they share certain similarities, particularly in terms of their influence on our behavior and well-being. So you look at the kind of the sequence: thoughts create feelings, feelings create behavior, behavior reinforces thoughts. So it's important that like emotions, our thoughts can significantly impact our actions, decisions, and relationships. But both thoughts and emotions can also be challenging to control at times, as they influence a myriad of internal and external factors, including our biology, environment, and past experiences. But they're not the same, but they do share some similarities. And it's difficult to control either one. But it really is this life of wanting to get progressively better, like every single day. And some days are better than others. But when we're trying to focus, it's important for us to work on that and really work. I mean, it's like I've said before in other chat with Byron, the idea of doing hard things. This is one of those hard things in life. And if you want to gain more control over your thoughts, if you want to gain more control over your emotions, this is one of those discipline endeavors that becomes very, very helpful and fruitful. The more you work on it, the more benefit you get from it. I believe that our mind is like a container. It's like a receptacle, and it emphasizes the importance of nurturing, caring for our mental well-being. Because just as we want to be mindful of what we put into a physical container, such as food or drink, or even trash, we must also be conscious of the thoughts that we allow to occupy our minds. If our mind is a receptacle, we don't want to put garbage into our minds. We want to be very careful. And that's going to come through media. It's going to come through words. It's going to come through associations. It's going to come through who you hang out with and what kinds of things you do with the people you hang out with. But negative thoughts, self-limiting beliefs, and rumination. Rumination comes from the idea of in cattle, cows have this ability because they have multiple chambered stomachs. They're able to regurgitate what they previously have chewed and swallowed, and they bring it up. That's called rumination. You bring it up, and when you bring up a negative thing, focusing on negative things only produces negativity. There is a way to focus on maybe something that's not negative, but focus on it for the purpose of working through it. That's different. But rumination is you almost get to the point where you kind of get out of control, and you can't stop yourself from thinking about your bad situation or what's going on. And what that ends up becoming, it becomes toxic to your mental well-being, which obviously leads to your body produces all kinds of hormones. And when you're under stress, it produces cortisol, which is great for healing bones, but it's not great. It's not so great for mental health, and mental well-being. It also produces a tremendous amount of anxiety, which can also ultimately lead to depression. But conversely, cultivating positive thoughts, and I'm not talking about, because there is, I believe there's something true about toxic positivity. This is not that. Toxic positivity is just as much garbage as trash in a trash receptacle. But positive thoughts, self-compassion, and resilience can promote a mental health and emotional health that is resilient and strong. But I believe our container is like a mind. It's important that you're cognizant and aware of what you're putting into your mind. And there are different kinds of thoughts. There are positive thoughts, obviously, negative thoughts, wasteful thoughts, and necessary thoughts. All thoughts aren't the same. And it depends upon where you are in your journey of how you want to have more control over how you think and feel. It's important to understand that you're in control. It's like I've said this before to many people, you're in control of how people perceive you. You're also in control of how much of these types of thoughts you have. If you end up having a lot of wasteful thoughts or a lot of negative thoughts, you're the one, this is where you do have some control, because when you have that thought, there's something you can do, especially if it's a negative thought or a wasteful thought. I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's important for you to understand there are necessary thoughts and there are positive thoughts. And it is possible to have most of your day to be made up of necessary thoughts and positive thoughts. And when you have a wasteful thought or a negative thought, you don't judge it, but you don't feed it either. You don't get distracted and go down and take the bait and go down that rabbit hole. Because if you do, it's going to waste a lot of your time. So here's the exercise. We're going to begin by kind of what to do with thoughts, because we all have them. They can come from, pretend they're coming from my left or coming from my right or coming from below or coming from above. It doesn't matter. But I'd like you to use your imaginations, because we're going to talk about what it means to take perspective. And the idea of perspective taking is the ability to see yourself. So to start with, I'd like you to envision, again, I know that this is clip art. This is some model who posed, and there's a picture of this gentleman sitting in a chair, but I want you to pretend that that's you. And I want to ask you this question. Not everyone can do this, but if you can see yourself, pretend you're sitting in a chair. Can you see yourself sitting in the chair? So how you do that is you pretend there's a camera up in the upper corner of the room, either in front of you or behind you. It doesn't matter. But can you see yourself sitting in that chair? The whole purpose of this, and this is and isn't mindfulness. This exercise I'm going to share with you is kind of a combination of mindfulness and a little bit of prayer. It's a little bit of kind of a Judeo-Christian way of thinking. But the whole point of the end result of where I'm trying to go with this is to show you that it's possible for you to learn to relax and let go, and ultimately trust. So when you have all these thoughts, the ultimate goal is to learn how to relax and let go. And it's also very much connected to your breath, to breathing. It's something I learned many, many, many years ago. And it's funny because I was reintroduced to this concept years ago, and I'm holding up my watch. I have this watch I wear, and when I first got this watch, it had all these free services that were part of the initial purchase of the watch, and it had all these different I don't know what you'd call them, like little mini lessons and stuff. But there was this one particular lesson from Deepak Chopra, which is pretty amazing. And this watch is a watch. It's a what's it called? A Fitbit Sense. And it's connected with Google because Google bought Fitbit, right? So somehow Google paid Deepak to do like a little meditation thing, and he talks about breathing, and he talks about how important it is for you to understand that as a human being, when you're living and working and doing your thing, you don't have to tell your. Can you imagine if breath wasn't automatic, that you actually had to kind of voluntarily tell your body, oh, you've got to breathe. And I'm sure there are situations, and if someone wants to tell me that there's a situation where someone had to tell himself to breathe, I don't know about that. And I'm not trying to go down a rabbit trail with that. But what Deepak was talking about is that just like when you have a thought or an emotion, because this exercise would work for either or both, okay? So it's a both and. And this is about learning to relax and let go, just like how we can learn how to inhale and exhale. If we try to hold on to our breath, so we're going to be greedy, and we're not going to inhale anymore, we're not going to exhale anymore, we're just going to hold on to it. Well, it doesn't take too long where your body's like, no, dude, that's not how this works. You've got to exhale and you got to inhale again. So when you have a thought, a distracting thought, a negative thought, a useless thought, a wasteful thought, maybe you have a necessary thought, maybe you have a positive thought. Even with those, the positive ones and the good ones and the negative ones, this is not necessarily about, I want you to kind of put yourself in a chair so that you're able to observe from a higher level perspective, vantage point. You're going to observe your life. You see yourself sitting in a chair, you relax and you observe. So here comes the thought. Let's say it's a negative thought. There it is. You don't react. You don't take the bait. You just simply, you breathe through it. Okay, here comes a positive thought. Same thing. You see it? So this one, if you wanted to, you accept the gift that the positive thought's going to give you. So it's going to give you a positive emotion. So what does that make you feel? And then we can talk about, the surface emotions from the last time we talked about. And by the way, that is on YouTube if you wanted to watch it. So you connect it to a surface emotion, you connect it to a deeper emotion. So now you feel gratitude. Great. The more that you can feel gratitude, the more you can feel thankful, the more kind of pliable your thinking will be. So, but the whole point of this is not to, it's funny, I was having a conversation with someone, and they kept on interrupting our conversation that we were having because they were judging their own thoughts. And it was quite distracting in the conversation because it was almost like they were talking to a third person and there was only just two of us, right? But they kept on, interrupting our conversation because it's like she was having a conversation with someone else. Well, you don't want to do that. So it's really about learning to relax and let go. It starts with you seeing yourself sitting in the chair and you relax and you observe. Then I want you to see yourself standing behind yourself. And I want you to notice the thoughts and your emotions, sit with the thoughts and emotions, get perspective on the thoughts and emotions. So you are the one, you're actually now standing, you're seeing yourself standing behind yourself. So you see two of you. So now, while you're still sitting in the chair, you're standing behind yourself and there's still this other perspective, this third perspective. And you can see all of this. But the whole point of this is for you not to judge your thoughts, not to, because again, especially if it's a negative thought, here comes a negative thought. Now you have a choice now. You want to ruminate? If you want to ruminate, you pull up that cud just like a cow would, and you start to reach through that negativity and that toxicity. And it goes throughout your entire system. Or you could sit there and you could observe the negative thought. Just let it go. Because just like we talked last month about emotions being similar to waves, there is a wave component to thoughts as well. You let them come and you let them go. Thoughts, in many ways, thoughts can be almost like, they can be like pestilent. They can be almost like little pests. They can come in, especially the ones that aren't very helpful. So especially the useless ones, useless thoughts. And we all have them. Just let them come in, fly around, and let them leave. The more energy you give to it, it'll stay. The more you're able to ignore it, it will leave. So observe yourself. Notice all of your chatter, your inner critic. Notice what it's saying. Don't judge. Notice all of your emotion and your reactions from observing your chatter. You cannot control these thoughts or feelings. So you learn to relax and let go. Notice that emotions act like waves from the ocean. They go up and down. And those thoughts come in almost like a little gnat or a mosquito. They kind of come in. Again, just like if it was a positive emotion or a positive thought, you notice it. And if you want to receive the gift that positive emotion or positive thought wants to give you, you could do that, or not. You could just simply observe it. But the whole idea is kind of like to stay neutral. So you're seeing yourself in the chair, and you're seeing yourself, watch yourself as you're sitting in the chair. Then I want you to pretend something else is behind you as you're standing there. As you're standing there behind yourself, sitting in the chair, there's something behind you. And I want you to pretend that this is the presence of love. Now, for those who come from a Judeo-Christian perspective, that's obviously going to be God, the infinite God. But you may not come from a Judeo-Christian perspective. Then I want you to I want you to think of just the presence and the essence of love. Infinite love is behind you. And that infinite love is supporting you, is caring for you. Now, you may not believe in a higher power, and that's okay. Use your imagination to put something else in this place where you see the word love. It's important that you believe that there's something behind you that can support you. It's got to be benevolent. It can't be bad. If it's bad, then you're not going to feel that love. But if you believe that as you're watching yourself observe those emotions and observe those thoughts, you're watching all of this as you're seated in the chair, you're watching yourself, and behind you is this very strong, powerful presence of love, and you know it's there. So consider these questions. Again, these are just simply questions to make you think as you're sitting there, watching yourself sitting there as you're being supported by love, that you're a human being, that you're on a planet full of other human beings, and that there's probably been roughly under 20 billion people who've ever lived. So the fact that you're living now is kind of a big deal, and that this planet actually is kind of a big deal, the fact that you live and exist on this planet, and you believe that this planet is one of trillions of other planets in the universe, and that you may or may not believe in God. You may not believe in this idea of this love that's supporting you. But the whole point of this is that it's not to get you to believe in God. It's to get you to be where you're able to sit there, and you don't have to freak out. You don't have to have monkey mind as you're observing your thoughts, because you're not alone. You're actually being supported by someone and something, this powerful presence behind you. So exercise 1, simply notice your thoughts and feelings. Just notice them. And I would encourage you to simply sit in your thoughts and feelings. Don't try to change them. Again, in some instances, the thought is so great or the feeling is so great that you want to extract the goodness from that. I totally get it. I understand it. You might need it. Then do it. But in this exercise, try to simply sit with your thoughts and feelings and work at getting or gaining perspective on your thoughts and feelings. Don't judge them. So that's exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is repeat the above, plus, if you want, you write down what you hear, what you sense. You journal about that. Or you write down what you feel. You journal about that, what you hear and what you feel. And by doing that, you're able to capture those insights, those thoughts, and you're also able to capture those feelings. And this is something you can do absolutely every single day because you are the observer. Now, do you believe, it's just a question, do you believe that God or a higher power is all powerful, all loving, all present, all knowing, who loves you and all the people who've ever lived, and his presence is behind you and is there to support you? Do you believe that? Most people are going to say, yes, I believe that. Then allow yourself to receive this power, knowledge, and love, to know that you're being supported, that there's someone behind you as you are observing your own thoughts and feelings. Can you imagine being supported by this presence behind you? That's what I meant earlier, but this isn't purely mindfulness. It's something else. It's mindfulness plus this kind of awareness. And I believe that this becomes really helpful because when you have those thoughts, We're not about taking those thoughts and doing anything with them, making them, do something. No, it's about, you see the thought, you experience the thought, you may maybe even experience the emotion, but you don't judge it. Because if you judge every single thought, and by nature, human beings we do judge. But in this exercise, the discipline is to try to just simply observe. So here comes the chatter, here comes the emotion. When your thoughts begin to race and your emotions begin to reel, focus on two simple actions. And these are absolutely connected to breathing. Relax and let go. So breathe in and breathe out. That's all I want you to focus on. Focus on being the observer. When you are observing yourself, you standing behind yourself as you're sitting in the chair, do not judge what you see, hear, or think. Do not believe that the thoughts or the emotions that you're experiencing are you. You are the observer standing behind yourself in the chair. Acknowledge what you hear, think, and feel, and work on breathing, relaxing, and letting go. I want you to try this and give me an idea of how it's going. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. Focusing on your breath, focusing on your breathing, and the presence loving behind you. The presence that's loving you. Holding on to anything is like holding on to your breath. You will suffocate. Just let go and trust. And this is just a part of the thoughts. I'm not saying that there's more to like trust, because you have to know in whom you're trusting. You have to know things about. So you want to fill your mind with good things, but that's a different discipline. This is the discipline of what to do about your thoughts. So I'm not saying that I would not want you to read good material. I do. I definitely want you to journal. I do. But this is about learning to relax and let go so that you have more control over when you have those negative thoughts or those useless thoughts. So when you relax, you're trusting who you are. You're trusting who is behind you. Knowing you are a human being, and human beings experience this kind of chatter and emotions and thoughts, you're a normal person. And when you let go, you release the emotions, you do not reject or deny, and you allow them to come up and to go down. That's the wave. And the same with those thoughts. You let them come, they kind of come in, they kind of buzz around, and then they leave. No judgment, no control. Breathe in, breath out. Similar to the up and down motions of waves, emotions, our breathing reminds us to breathe in and breathe out. We cannot hold onto our breath indefinitely or we will die. We relax and we let go. In my opinion, that's how we grow to have a more disciplined mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So a little bit about me, the things I love, and I still need to change and add, because you don't know what little Max looks like, but Max is growing. He's a little pup. He's like 13 weeks old now, a little over 3 months. But thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Take care.